Hello and welcome to the first episode of Screen Intensity. This is a new format that we're experimenting with, where we've done away with the Hangouts on Air portion, and we're instead focusing on content that will help you, the developers, understand Google TV better, the audiences you can approach, things you might want to develop, be it web apps or Android applications for TV. We're going to be using this format going forward, which means we'll be launching only one episode every month. But within that episode, we'll be packed three segments. Typically, an event coverage segment, a tutorial, and then something else that we decide as we go on. This month will be a little different in that we're going to be covering CES as well as the LA YouTube Google TV Hackathon that took place January 26th and 27th at our LA office. Now, if you want to provide feedback and give us an understanding of how you feel about this format, what you'd like to see, etc., please feel free to email me at krispy@google.com. As well, feel free to create video questions and hashtag them with Screen Intensity, and I'll start looking for those to see if we can roll them into future episodes. So with that, why don't we get started and take a look at what happened at CES. Hello, my name is Crispy. I'm a developer programs engineer on Google TV, and I'm joined today with Matt Gaunt, who's a developer advocate also on Google TV. And we're going to talk a little bit today about CES 2013 and
the beast that is.
The beast that is. So, why don't we lead off? What was your impression this year? This was your first time, wasn't it?
Yeah, first time in Vegas, first time at CES. I was blown away. It's just phenomenal to see the number of companies there, the number of people that are just passing through, looking at everything they can possibly get their hands on. Yeah, it was. I was amazed, to be honest.
A lot of treat bags floating around, I'm sure.
So many bags.
So let's talk about the presence of Google TV at CES.
Yeah, so generally the presence of Google TV, we had a lot of the team members working there. We were kind of helping out a lot of the partner booths, getting to meet a lot of the people that are coming through. And generally, everyone that was there that we spoke to was either enjoying the new features that were brought in V3, or they were telling us about apps they love, or generally they're how impressed they were about the number of partners that we kind of grew to and the numbers that were being announced at CES.
So certainly a lot more buzz and excitement and sort of that, wow, when can we get on there?
Exactly. It was a really nice mix of new people that hadn't really heard of Google TV versus people that have been following us since the start and were just like, wow, you guys have just completely exploded.
So what do you think this means for developers in the TV development or app development space?
So for me, I think it's always come down to any kind of general platform kind of application. You get to a point where you have to pick a platform when you're starting out. And generally when you do that, you're targeting a specific device, and then instantly you say, well, either I target one platform and it's tied to one sort of OEM, or I can target one platform that's literally supported everywhere. And that's kind of the main goal of Google TV. And I think we kind of proved to the point now that developers who are looking for smart TV platforms, they can go with Google TV and feel that they're going to start hitting a range of devices from a range of different partners. And at that point, they can obviously sit there and make the trade-off of, well, if I go for this, it's one code base, it's going to run on all these devices. It makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Now, while you were sort of cruising the floor and checking out all the cool technology there, what was your favorite geek out moment? Where was that, aha, I'm at CES, this is amazing?
I think for me is when you start going around and you start trying out different things on the voice commands, and literally just someone showed me a new trick which I didn't even know existed, where they sat there, they pressed the voice search button and just went, how to tie a bow tie, and then YouTube just opened up straight to a video of a guy just showing you how to tie a bow tie, and I just thought, that's amazing.
Because bow ties are cool.
Yeah, obviously. But it's just that whole thing of getting to a point where you can say a voice search and then your TV is literally just coming back with the first thing that is most relevant, and obviously it's just amazing to think where that could go. That's one example, but you start going deeper and deeper in how you can start responding to these queries.
So developers often ask, how can I participate in the voice search part of this? So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
At the moment, the best way of doing it is if you start integrating into the quick search box, which you can already do on the Android platform. Obviously, we're going to get to a stage where your app is going to appear in those results. But it'd be really nice if we start getting deeper. Like, I hope one day we have an API where you can launch like automatically like we do with YouTube. But at the moment, the quick search box, you say a voice search, it will come up, it gives you a list of options, and then you can start having your app surface at that point. So it's still really nice entry point for a user to kind of find your content.
And what's a good place for someone who's maybe not familiar with this technology? Where should they start digging in?
So for me, I think the best place is to kind of start with a really core idea, a core concept that you think people will really benefit from and love, and then start developing an Android app. And if you start getting to that point where you can release something and publish it, do it as soon as possible, when you're comfortable with it, like you think it's actually good enough. Because what you start learning is people will start responding with feature requests, or they'll start finding out bugs that you haven't found yourself. And then you quickly start learning about the platform, you start learning the nuances of the APIs, etc. And for me, that's the easiest way of doing it, is if you start learning on the job, you start getting people feeding back to everything that you're doing.
So measurement is obviously a big part of this. So analytics, mobile analytics, APIs would play a big role. But just back to the search box for a moment. There's a section in Android documentation about this.
Yep, so I think literally if you go to developers.android.com, there's a massive search box right there, quick search box. Generally, the documentation on the Android site is great because you don't just get an API doc. Generally, if you search something like quick search, what you'll get is almost a blog post style thing where they start saying, here's what you're trying to do, this is how you do it. And they kind of guide you through step by step in really kind of plain English of what you need to do. And then when you start saying, well, I really like it if it could just do this, that's the point that they'll kind of say, look at the docs and you'll find what you need.
Awesome. So, with the talk about, voice search and how excited everyone is around this, I mean, what are the things that we're seeing from device manufacturers that we haven't seen in the past?
I think the main thing that I kind of took away from this, the main difference, as well as just the remote still changing vastly between each OEM, they've started adding in this new button on the cursor, on the buttons, which basically say hide the cursor or show the cursor. And basically it's kind of a nice way of switching the user out from having that main navigation with a gyroscope or using a touchpad to just having that up, down, left, right D-pad. So yeah, that for me was the big thing that's kind of changed.
So the directional pad obviously is still going to be the primary mode of input in the future. It's not going away, but we're starting to see more.
Much not. Then kick off.
Now, so one last thing that we should talk about. What do you think developers of TV apps should pay attention to out of CES this year?
I think the biggest kind of thing that you'll notice when you start looking at any kind of TV platform is generally they try and make things as simple and kind of relaxing as possible. Like, people who are in the living room interacting with their TVs, they're trying to get to some form of entertainment. Generally they're in that kind of mode where they just want to relax and just be entertained. And I think the biggest thing that developers need to take away from that is whatever you do with your UI, try and keep it simplistic. Try and focus more on your core functionality and make it as seamless as possible to get the user from entry to where they want to go in your app. So for me, it's all about focusing on the experience and making sure that what they're doing, they're enjoying, and just trying to create some sort of environment and experience where they're really enjoying it.
And that's really what it comes down to, creating an experience. For those of you who are watching now, you might be watching this on the Google Developers Live Android application, which is what Matt and I are working on. It started out as a seed of an idea. I prototyped it, and Matt has been gracious enough to help me make the UI as wonderful as possible. So maybe, do you want to talk a little bit about, what you've had to do to clean up my trailblazing code paths?
So I saw what Chris was doing, and one of the main things that I wanted to do, or the first thing I wanted to do, was bring it in line a little bit more with kind of the GDL design already on the website, etc. I think there's a really clear branding already there, and I kind of wanted to bring it over to the app. So I started off doing some mocks in just my favorite photo editing software, went through all of that, and got to a stage where I was quite happy with it. I'd taken input from other people, including Crispy, and then thought, right, cool, I'm going to start doing this in code now because it's going to be easier and quicker to make little changes and tweaks. But largely a lot of it was just pulling out different like fixed widths, fixed paddings, moving it all into styles in the values kind of directory, and generally getting to a point where everything was shared and seeing off the same page. At that point, it was nice and easy just to start making little tweaks on different versions of whether it be on TV or tablet or phone. And yeah, just bringing everything into one more coherent thing and making it work or look slightly more in line with Android design guidelines, because obviously Android, especially over the last kind of couple of versions, have really focused on encouraging developers to have a very similar look and feel while still bringing in their own branding, their own elements of differentiation, but still not expecting a user to learn an entirely new interface. So I think we found a good balance.
Right, and actually one of the things that I learned from you over this was going for a broad layout architecture as opposed to a deep one, which is what I was tending to do.
So yeah, generally I've learned the hard way. If you have a layout structure and you end up having linear layout, view, linear layout, and you just start going deeper and deeper and deeper in that kind of view hierarchy, everything starts getting slow, everything starts getting sluggish. And yeah, one of the things I've just been doing is just removing redundant views. So Hierarchy Viewer is a fantastic tool for this, which I've just been kind of relying on quite heavily just to shave off some of the
cruft
waste.
I added.
Yeah.
So for developers out there who are curious, I mean, I don't have very much Android experience. Since I've joined the team, I've started to ramp up on it. I still consider myself a generalist and someone relatively new, but you've been at this a while.
Yeah, so I've been working on Android since 1.0, and I've kind of been working with a number of companies, keeping relatively up to Android. I think towards the start of the tablet world, I think I started tailing off, so that's where I'm still picking up myself. But yeah, generally I've kind of watched Android grow from a fixed screen width and height right up to where it is today. So yeah, I've been keeping busy.
All right, well, thank you very much, Matt, for being here today.
Thank you.
Hopefully you'll have a safe trip back to London.
Oh,
and
I will.
We'll have you back again in the future.
Yeah, I'll be back.
Now, for those of you who are watching us for the first time, some of the things you might want to check out, we have a lot of back episodes from 2012. And you're also on another Google Developers Live Hangout regularly.
So I'm with Richard and Nick quite a lot of the time on the Android office hours, so definitely check those guys out.
Great. Thank you for joining us.
Cheers.
Developers here from Google, and we're going to talk about them in a second. But we're here to help you, answer your questions, so that this becomes a fairly enjoyable event, and you guys can walk away feeling that you've accomplished something. That's what we really want to see.
Yeah, hi. And if you have any questions about what it's like to work for Google or any other questions, we actually have Lynn and Heather around. So
another stat for you. On average, about 300 million people in the U.S. watch about 5 hours of TV per day. Interesting? You know what that is? That's 166,000 years of television watched in a single day. That's more than the entirety of human history.
people ask me whether this is a real photo. And the answer is
welcomed everyone, talked a little bit, and folks are putting up all their ideas and teams are trying to form. And, we're looking forward to one hell of an event.
Looking at the code now, and I'm trying to recruit people, so...
Well, you know, first prize is that 55-inch LG TV.
Okay.
That was the best presentation I've seen in probably this week, and probably this year, 2013.
Wow, high praise.
It was great though. I enjoyed it. It's going to be some of the inspiration for what we do in our presentation.
Yeah.
The point of our app is going to be that it's going to be like a challenge, like physical challenges. So instead of, it's just supposed to be making exercise a lot more fun. So what you can do is you can interact with your friends, or you can interact with people all over the world. You can find them on the map and then send them a challenge.
What you fixing up there, Jeremy?
I don't know yet.
That looks like a lot of guac.
Yeah, it's going to be a little of everything.
We are going to build a Google TV related application. We don't know what it is yet, but we're just trying to make it work first and then figure it out from there.
Sure, we're working on an app that'll be based inside Salesforce.com or the Force.com platform that will allow companies to upload videos to YouTube and then automatically receive the stats of how many people have watched that video, liked it, etc. All from within Salesforce and take advantage of that reporting engine and so on and so forth.
I hate to disappoint you. I'm here supervising 3 different people for other teams.
Okay, and what are they building?
You know, one of them was the cat videos that you saw up front there. The other one was connecting with the ed tech students who are interested in furthering that. And then the last one is going to surprise me, so we'll see.
It's 4:10 p.m. and we're able to record from a webcam using the upload widget up to YouTube and pull some stats on that video.
Cool.
All night?
Yes, I was.
And did you stay up or did you sleep?
I'm not sure actually. Both.
You think you're a hummingbird of some sort at this point?
Yeah, that's right.
So how far along are you?
Pretty much close. Yeah.
Yeah? You think you'll be ready for demo?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Good.
We're doing pretty good.
Yeah?
I think we're where we wanted to be. We had a late night until 2 in the morning, but
you look a little sleep weary, a little like I don't know where I am.
That's usually how I am.
Morning. You ready for another exciting day of hacking?
Yes.
Good.
As ready as ever.
I am right now just adding on a little page where we can expand on the search.
You were up too late last night.
No. To expand on the search, there's a toolbar for the more popular searches, and now I'm like naming categories to put as examples of what you'd see.
I guess, yeah. I mean, it does
So where are we at?
We're doing good. We have a application that lets teachers use Google TV in the classroom and get feedback from their students by having the students anonymously engage when they don't understand. And we have the view that lets teachers set up the videos and prepare the class, and also the interface that the students will see. Right now we're planning to make a bring your own device interface so that students with computers, cell phones, tablets can engage with the application. We're doing pretty good.
Great.
Technology,
Yeah.
Mr. Google Buses.
Number 2. How you guys doing? Coding strong?
We've done the basic functionality, and we are building the interface to interact with it now. I learned a lot with you guys on using the new API, the YouTube API, and they are learning a lot about the Google TV SDK to integrate with the Android phone.
You all set for another day of coding?
Obfuscate, Brian, obfuscate the code.
That's awesome trick I was gonna do to you. It's gonna take me a little while to build it though. I'm ready to code.
Excellent.
We're gonna win.
Excellent.
Fighting timers.
Fighting timers?
Right now we're trying to make an event for the class.
Okay.
In order to return the affected control.
They are doing the hardcore stuff, and I'm just getting the presentation ready, so it's coming along swimmingly. They will, because I believe in the guys. Go team!
But it's overlaid on top of the live stream TV. So you can still watch the show, but you can also watch it, interact with people at the same time. And so
we all understand what we're doing now, and our goal is clear, so I think everyone is focused and everyone's working on their own piece of the puzzle.
HTML and CSS based modules that'll be the building blocks of our pages, while our partners are working on our database schema, and hopefully within the hour or so we're going to be able to start merging together.
Totally. At this point, we've got a bunch of it designed and coded, and we're just going to smush the two together, and everything will be magical.
Awesome.
Hi everyone, Crispy here. I'm going to walk you through a basic tutorial on how to set up your environment on Windows so that way you can do Google TV development. So we're just going to launch Chrome here and maximize the window. First thing we need to do is install the JDK. So this is a clean install of Windows 7, and I'm just going to go to the Oracle JDK download section, and what we want to do is download the latest JDK. Standard edition is fine, and since this is a 32-bit system, I'm going to be downloading the Windows x86 binary. Don't forget to accept a license agreement. So we'll do that and download. And so that'll take a second. I've sort of sped things up here. While that's actually downloading, I'm going to go and get the not the ADK, that's the Android or accessory development kit. We're going to get the Android SDK. So just do a quick search, get Android SDK, and Android has done a wonderful job of packaging up all the tools we need. So we're just going to download the SDK, agree to the terms of service, again 32-bit, and we're going to download those. While that's downloading, why don't we launch the JDK install? So we'll just click here and get this going. And again, I've sped up some of this because it takes a little long, especially on a virtualized instance of Windows here. So I'm just accepting pretty much the defaults. install the development tools, source code, Jerry, and I leave all the path settings, the standard or the defaults that are there. So this could install and set everything up. The nice thing about this installer is you don't have to modify environment variables afterwards. So now that it's installed, I like to use PowerShell. You can use the standard terminal, but I like PowerShell because I can use LS, etc. So we're just going to launch this here. Oh yeah, the after install screen. Get rid of that. And go back to PowerShell, and we're going to type in Java-version, and we should see some output, which we do, so we know it's installed. That's great. And I think our zip file is downloaded for the SDK, so we'll just open this up, and I guess we got to back out of this to install it, so we'll just unzip the directory. Now, I like to put my tools in a development folder, so I'm going to create the development folder. Usually I just put that under my username, so development. Alright, and then I like to create another folder for tools. So create another folder, call it tools, and hit OK. And we're just going to extract this zip file in there. And this has everything you need to get going with development. Again, I've sped this up a little bit because a little slow on the instance I'm using here. So once that is installed, there's a couple things we're going to need to do to sort of get going with this. So let's open the directory. And we'll go into the Eclipse folder, which has a special version of Eclipse that the Android team has set up. So we'll launch Eclipse and tell Windows it's okay to run it. And the Android Developer Tools IDE will launch. I like using this one again because everything's sort of prepackaged, and the ADK tools are already integrated with this Eclipse instance, so it just makes life a little easier. So again, in this case, we're going to create a new workspace. I don't like accepting the defaults because it puts it in a weird place. So inside our development folder, we're going to create a subfolder, call it, I don't know, GTV workspace. And that's where we're going to store our projects. So we'll just hit OK there. I typically don't set the default because I like to create a lot of workspaces. Your personal preference, whether you want to use one for all of them or not, is again your choice. So yes, we'll send statistics to Google. And let's just expand this window. And you can just close the screen. You can read all that stuff if you want. It's just how to use it. And up here we have the Windows Manager, or the SDK Manager, and the Virtual Device Manager. I'm going to launch the SDK Manager because from here we're going to choose what sort of SDK packages we need to install. So this is sort of an extra little step here. By default, the latest is usually installed. We need version Android 3.2 installed to do Google TV development. You'll notice there's a Google TV add-on below there that contains an emulator, but we're not going to use that in this video. So everything else looks pretty good, so we're just going to install these packages. This might take, again, a few minutes. Oh, what's down here? So I usually check if there's any other additional extras I want to add. We might do some analytics stuff, so let's check analytics, and that way we can, use the analytics tool in future tutorials. So everything else looks good. Let's just install these packages. I'm going to accept all the agreements, hit install, and that's going to proceed to download. So again, I've sped this up. It might take a little longer on your computer, or it might take less time. I don't know. So let this install. You can ignore those console messages. Sorry. And we'll close this. And let's see, we need to go in here, we need to launch the control panel, because now that we have the tools installed, we actually need to add them to our path. So we just go to the search area here, and we'll type in environment variables, and we'll click on edit environment variables, which will pop up our handy little environment editor. Just drag that over here and click on the PowerShell, and now we'll change our environment variables. So we're going to edit the path, but before we do that, we need to know where our tools are relative to the file system. So we're going to Development, Tools, and then you'll see in here that we have the ADK bundle. So we'll just change into that directory, and we'll see that we have another folder, the SDK, and then platforms. Do we need anything in platforms? I don't think so. Let's just double check. Yeah, we're good on platforms. So I think we want platform tools. That's really what we're going to be adding to our path environment variable. So let's go platform tools, and you'll see in here ADB exists. So this is the correct directory. This is the one that we want to use. And from here, okay, so we see ADB is right there. That means we want to take the path that we're currently in, and we're going to add that to our environment path. So we just copy this. You can right click on it after you highlight it. We'll go find the path environment variable and hit edit, and then we're just going to tack it on at the end. So with Windows, you just put a semicolon at the end here. Let's go to the end, semicolon, and then we'll paste it in, Control V, and we'll hit OK. And then you'll have to hit OK on the system properties in order for that to stick. Otherwise, you might add it and it's not actually applied yet, and you'll get frustrated. So now what we can do is we can go ADB connect and then type in the IP address of your Google TV. So you can get that under settings, network, about, or status, sorry. You can see the Google TV settings. The other thing is you'll have to set up your Google TV to accept the IP address of the computer you're using to connect to. So that can be done from the settings, application development, and then there's an area to enter the IP address. So you can see we're connected here. So let's go back here, and we're going to create our first project. Now you could create an Android virtual device. We're not going to do that in this tutorial. Let's just create a new Android package or project, and we're going to call this Hello Google TV. Now, I like to change package name. It's good to do that and not use the default, so we'll just use crispy Android TV, and we'll call it Hello. Okay, Hello GTV, sure. Now, required SDK, I like to put everything at 3.2, just because that makes sure I'm targeting Google TV. You can leave the compile with at whatever the latest version is. It'll still target the right SDK. Up here, I leave all the defaults. It'll create a launcher icon, activity, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, you can fiddle around with this and toy with it. The default's pretty nice, but you can, you know, differentiate your apps by maybe choosing clip art. So we'll choose this guy here. And let's see, it's square. Let's make a yellow background. No, purple background with a yellow Android. That'll look cool. So something that sort of stands out on the screen, make it a circle, add a little padding. You know, this is good for basic development stuff, so just something to keep in mind. Now on this screen, we're just going to create an activity. We're going to leave the default, but you have lots of other options here. I recommend when you're beginning, just start with basic blank activities. That way you learn what to add. So we're going to leave the defaults for the name. That's the activity name, the layout name. And again, don't play around with the navigation type right now. We'll just leave everything sort of default here, because this is just a light introduction. And now that this project is created, once Eclipse catches up with me here, so your project's going to get compiled, and it's going to run through all the Android tools and do the resource generation, etc. Just going to wait for the layout here to load. Again, I'm doing this on a virtual instance, so it's a little slower than it might be on your computer. So I like to choose the Galaxy Nexus view here because it's about 720p, and if we rotate it on its side and then choose the Hollow theme, you get sort of what Google TV size is. So this is pretty true to form. So we have Hello World, and let's just fit this to the screen. And what we're going to do now is we're going to run this. And so if this is connected to your Google TV, you're going to see Hello World pop up on the screen. So you've created your first Android application. And oh, what do we got here? Oh, no virtual devices. Oh, we disconnected. Okay, so let's go back into PowerShell, and we're going to go ADB connect. So if this happens to you, it's quite simple. You can do ADB connect and then the IP address of your Google TV, and you see it showing up here now in the Android device manager. So we know that that's the device we want to run it on. We'll click OK, and this will now run or package it up and install it on your Google TV and run it, and you should see a nice screen that says Hello World. If yours looks a little different, maybe it has an action bar or whatever, don't worry. The important thing is that it's running on your Google TV. So now we're going to play with some of the properties. I'm going to just cover a few basic things just to get you started and whet your appetite. So the first thing is maybe we want to change the text size. So we're going to create a new dimension here. We'll call it big text or something like that. Big font, and we'll set it to 44 device pixels. So this will be pretty large on the screen. It's a good idea to keep your font sizes large, especially on TV, because your users are about 10 feet away from the screen, and you want them to be able to use it. Now, don't make everything that big, but you know, we can see here. Here's our dimension that we've added, and if you hold down the control key and click on it, it will open the dimensions XML file. So this is sort of how Android keeps everything separate and managed. So remember that you can control click, and you can edit this here if you wanted to. So we'll change this maybe to 64 now. And if we go back and look at the graphical view, it's even bigger. So it's always a good idea to isolate and separate out all of the different parameters in your layouts. So I'm just moving this around a little, relative layout, and I'm going to add, I think, another margin just to add some margin space around it. There's lots of options you can play with. There's lots of great tutorials online. So let's go to the margin here, and we'll click on this, and we're going to create a new dimension, and we're going to call this fats margin, and we'll set this to that looks good. So we'll set that, and you can see that the margin's been created around the text element. So from here, if we were to run this, we would see it on the screen like that. Let's drag another text object on the screen. I'm going to just center this sort of where the Hello World was before. So we'll drop that in there, and what's cool is now that we have these dimensions, we can actually reuse these. So if we go to margin and choose fat, oops, what did I do wrong here? Let's click on that again, and let's see, big fonts. All right, there we go. So we have the margin, we have the fonts, and now if we run this, you will see on your Google TV these two pieces of text. So this is a good thing that can get you started, and stay tuned as we do future episodes for more cool and exciting things you can do with your layouts. We're going to talk about UI a lot more in future ones, but just to quickly recap, your XML files get edited as you play with the layouts, and it's always a good idea to edit here. Now in this case, I'm actually getting a warning about what is this? This is a string that needs to be extracted. So my content description, I'm just going to control 1 while I'm highlighting it, and that menu will pop up and I can extract the string. And then if we control click on it, we can see the strings XML file, and we can see large text. And we could change this to whatever we want. So let's just do that now. Google TV rocks. And we could save that and run it. And you can see this on your TV. So hopefully that gets your appetite whetted, and you will dive in a little bit further.